That now infamous statement by Republican Senator Jon Kyl has become part of our political culture, and not in a good way. Kyl used that reasoning to explain why he said abortions represent over 90% of what Planned Parenthood does. That's not true. It's more like 3%. So his office rushed to his aid, and it made things even worse. It told CNN that Kyl's math was, quote, not intended to be a factual statement. Comedian Stephen Colbert took that and he ran with it.
I decided to celebrate Jon Kyl's groundbreaking explanation last night by tweeting round-the-clock non-facts about him. Such as, for the past 10 years, Jon Kyl has been 2 children in a very convincing Jon Kyl suit.
It's funny. We bring this up because of John Avlon, a CNN contributor and senior columnist for the Daily Beast. He wrote an interesting piece for CNN.com on what passes for political debate today. So welcome, John.
Good to see you, Carol.
Good to see you. It's not just Republicans selling untruths. Democrats are guilty of this, too. I think voters know this, so why do you think it's such a big deal?
Because it's getting worse than ever before. I mean, there's something breathtakingly cynical about that statement from Senator Kyl's office that, was not intended to be a factual statement. I mean, it really pulls the curtain back and exposes the fact that increasingly on our debates, it's not about whether something's true or not. It's whether or not it can scare people enough to have them remember it and become part of the talking points for a particular partisan or ideological agenda.
And we have to remember, he said this. He said this on the Senate floor, so it goes into the public record, right?
Exactly right. I mean, and folks can't depend on statements of truth being said in the U.S. Senate. I mean, this is what happens when talk radio starts influencing political talking points. There's no sense of accountability. And there should be, which is why, look, in a really insane spin cycle environment like the one we're in, satire is a pretty rational response, which is where Stephen Colbert comes in.
That's right.
Thanks for it.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, I know Americans are confused by all of the information flying around out there, but it's difficult even when the media is responsible and corrects the misinformation. It's hard to convince some voters that the information they're hearing is inaccurate because some voters simply want to believe the untruths.
That's right. I mean, look, we are self-segregating ourselves into political realities, and people pick up political information that reinforces their own political prejudices. But the overall problem is one that creates a crisis of trust in our institutions. A lot of polls have shown that believability in media has gone down dramatically over the last several decades, exactly as the rise of partisan media has begun to affect things. It's gotten so bad that C-SPAN is increasingly unbelievable to people. That is a problem for our political culture, and we need to confront it.
I know. So what's the answer? I mean, is there a short answer?
I think the answer is to stand up and call it out, whether it's satire or real news. You can't allow these mistruths, this deliberate misinformation, which is just a fancy word for a lie with an ideological agenda behind it, to keep being percolated. So whether it's Donald Trump talking his birther nonsense or not, it doesn't need to be indulged as one man's opinion. It needs to be condemned as the lie that it in fact is.
Oh, amen, brother. You're going to be back soon for our political buzz. I look forward to it. You can read John's entire column on this subject at CNN.com/opinion.